Alright, welcome to Graphing with Google Sheets. First thing that we're going to go through and do a little bit of review is what to do when you get here. You've opened a Google Sheet. You're going to title it first thing so that it's saved and it's not just some other spreadsheet in your Google Drive, and we're going to title this one Circles and Paragraphs. First lab that we're doing. Dealing with just circles right now. You did two things. You made two measurements. You measured diameter in centimeters, and you measured circumference in centimeters. And so you're going to title your first two columns here. Doesn't make a difference where they're at, but in this case we're just going to start right here. Notice that I put centimeters in parentheses up here. I will not write centimeters again. I'm only going to put in numbers, and you should do so now. I am going to copy and paste because I had it copied and pasted. But you're going to enter those, and again, no letters, only numbers. Once you have this and you have data in that you want to graph, here's what you're going to do. You're going to click outside the box somewhere. So I'm going to click over here. And I'm going to go to one of two places. I'm either going to go over here to Insert Chart, or I'm going to go up here to Insert and then go down to Chart. Two options. When I do that, when I click it, it gives me no data. Of course, because I have a box over here, so there's nothing there. I'm going to move this out of the way so that I can clearly get to my data. And the first thing I'm going to do is go over to my chart editor. Notice that if I click out of here, click off of my chart that's about to happen, it goes away. So when I click it, nothing happens. When I double click it, it appears. First thing I'm going to do is go to chart type, and I'm going to scroll down here to scatter chart. And I'm going to click scatter chart. And what do I want in my scattered chart? Well, most of the time, you guys are going to put your independent variable on the x-axis. But in this case, we just measured two things. So for sake of ease, I want diameter here. So here's how this is going to work. I'm either going to click this little box here, which allows me to select, or I can just double click anywhere in this add x-axis. So double click. What data do you want? I only want numbers. I'm going to select all of my diameters. And I'm going to click OK. Hey, look at that. That looks like crap. That's okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here to Add Series. Double click. This is series, aka this is going to be my y. And I'm going to put circumference on the y. And when I do that, hopefully, there it is. I've got a trend of some type. In this case, obviously, some of my measurements might have been a little better than others, but this is generally linear. Okay, this is what we're going for. If stuff is linear, you are in a good spot because you only have to add some details to your chart. First thing that you're going to do, you're going to go up to Customize. You're going to go to Chart and Axes Titles. You're going to click there and notice that when it says type, you can go through chart type. You can add horizontal, vertical axes titles, all the things. So my horizontal, what did we put there? We put diameter, and that was in centimeters, making sure I have units and whatever it is. Circumference on the y. And the chart title. Chart title is simple. It's always whatever you have on your y versus whatever you have on your x. So in this case, it's circumference versus diameter. There it is. So I've got that. Check. All titled. And now, last thing I want to do. Because it's linear, I'm going to go to Series. So I click the Series. Okay. Go down here to Trend Line. I want a trend line. Bam. There's my best fit line. The one last thing that's the most important thing for you in here. This is why we do this. This is why we want to get a linear graph eventually. We want to go to use equation. So to do that, you're going to click use equation. Notice that I did not click show r squared. What's r squared? We don't care. Don't show it, don't care about it, whatever. We want to use the equation. This is simply your slope equation. It's the slope of this line. So pretend this blue box is y, and then equals, here's your slope, m, times x, plus b, aka b is your y-intercept. And that's it. That's all that you do. So when your graph is nice and linear, then you begin to put your stuff in, and you actually put in your trend line. And then, most importantly, you show the equation. If it turns out that this was not linear, well, then we've got to do something. And we're going to get to what we need to do there as time goes by. And I think there's another video about that. The last thing that I'm going to talk about is throwing in an equation. So if, for example, you need a couple other columns and they need to be calculated, here's how you're going to calculate, aka let Google Sheets do math for you, really efficiently. If, for example, we want a radius column, I'm going to throw in radius as my title, and radius is just half of the diameter. So here's what I do. I'm going to click equals. Equals is Google Sheets' way of saying, excuse me, yep, I would like you to do some math for me. And so equals, and then what do we want to do? Well, we know that radius is half of diameter. So this row is all one thing. It's referring to the same circle. The diameter of the circle, the circumference of that same circle, and now we want the radius. So I want this diameter, so I click on it, and I'm going to click divide by 2. And when I click enter, bam, it did it. Half of 23 is 11.5. Now, you do not have to go through and do equals and click and do that for every single one. The way that I do that is if I want all of these to get cut in half, I've done it for the first one. I put in an equation. Notice that there's this little box in the corner of the big blue box. You are simply going to put your cursor over it, and your cursor will turn to a plus sign. You're going to click it, and you're going to drag it all the way down and let it go, and just like that, you have done the magic. You have cut all of these diameters in half very quickly. So that's how you do it. It's not magic. It just takes a little bit of practice. So if you forget, come back to this video.